Hi, friend.
Hi, friend. Are you ready
Ready for what?
to level up?
Okay, girl, let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Level Up with Raman and Alysha.
On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the famous line that we've all heard: love is blind. But in our opinion, it really is blind.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
we'll be talking about why we think love is blind, kind of experience that we've had with it. And we'll be talking about, what you should actually be doing when love is really blind.
Yeah, so this isn't just about the Netflix show, guys.
Al-
And
Although it's a really good show.
it is. I'm a sucker for reality TV show, and that one really intrigued me. So we'll talk a little bit about that if Roman and I remember anything from it. But yeah, so I think, let's jump
Jump
into
right
it.
in. So why do we think love is blind? I mean, we hear the famous line, and it's a controversial line because I feel like most people will say, like, no, love is not blind. You know what you're doing, and you know what you're getting yourself into. And we're not talking about love at first sight because that's like a completely different topic. But when you are in love with somebody you could be with them for 1 month, 1 year, X amount of years, you could be married, but why is love blind? So, in our opinion, love is blind because sometimes you don't see past the love. So, sometimes there could be qualities about the person that are not good. There could be behaviors, there could be things about yourself, even that, you might be changing to kind of adapt to the other person, but you're not realizing so many of these things because you do get blinded by love. We're all those like hopeless romantic women. We get blinded by love. It's happened to all of us where we do look past, somebody's negative qualities, I should say, and maybe negative behavior because we're just so in love with the idea that, like, I love this person and I can put up with it, or, I can accept this, or I can get past this because I love this person. But why? Like, why should you have to put up with it?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Raman, on that. I feel like, you know what? One of the girls that I remember on the show, if we're going to talk about it, is that Jessica girl. So I think it has a
Yeah.
lot to do with healing before you do even go looking for love or putting yourself in a relationship. Because a lot of people think love can fix all your problems or being in a relationship can fix your problems, but it
Mhm.
can't. And I think that's where it comes from. Like, you need to love yourself first, especially. So, Jessica was a prime example that she always had these high standards with people in her past relationships. And then I remember, like, she didn't break away from that. And then she was now connecting with someone in those rooms, pods, whatever they were called. And
Yeah.
she was connecting with that guy, the younger one. I forget his name.
Mark.
Um,
I think it was Mark.
yeah, Mark. Okay, so yeah, she was connecting with Mark. And like, she just let her old standards get in her way of judgment.
Mhm.
And that's because she didn't deal with those issues prior to coming onto the show, I feel. And I think she thought like maybe she'd be okay, or her inner issues, she would deal with them while she was meeting with someone, but that's too much going on at the same time. And I
Mhm.
feel like, so if you're someone who still has a lot to deal with, or you don't love yourself, or your standards may be too high or cliche, or I don't know, like, everyone always says, when you ask people what are you looking for, you usually say you're looking for a tall, handsome,
Tall,
rich
dark, and
person.
handsome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always the go-to line for a lot of girls that I know that are still single. And my thing is, why just that though? There's so much more beyond looks
Mhm.
and career. It's that intellectual, like, connection you have with that person and getting to know them on a raw level as well. Like, let's not forget, when you take away the clothes, you take away the money, you take away, like, our features, our makeup, everything, you lay beside that person. Every day you wake
Yeah.
up with them with a fresh face and you go to bed the same way. So, how's that any different, So, I feel like, if you don't love you, how are you going to be able to love yourself and love the person that's coming into your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you said something really important, which is love yourself first. The reason why we feel like love is blind is because you might be putting that person before yourself, right? You might
Yeah,
be kind of loving somebody so much that, and it's never a bad thing to love somebody so much, but you might be loving them to a level where you forget to love yourself, right? And that
yeah,
in those terms, we say love is blind. Um, it's blind when it comes to putting yourself as a priority, putting yourself first, ignoring red flags. I mean, especially ignoring the red flags. We've all done it. We've all made those stupid mistakes where, and I feel like girls, because we like all gossip and tell each other and stuff. So we're all like a
yeah,
testament to knowing that, we've all gone through those terrible relationships where you it's like doing a pro and con list, right? So if you were to put a pro and con list, you might have like a really large list of cons, but then on your pro list, you might be like, but I love him. And it's like
yeah,
you're willing to not like you're willing to go past all those negative cons for that one pro. It's like because I love him, you're willing to be blind to everything else. Or maybe not even like blind, but be willing to accept it and be willing to not do anything about it because and I've heard this in my past relationship. I have heard this with a girlfriend that recently got out of a relationship as well, where the guy has been like when two people are not good for each other, but then the one person, and it could be the guy or the girl, are like, but we love each other and that should be
yeah,
enough, right? And
yeah.
I think that's when it comes down to it. So many people get trapped in toxic relationships, um, in terrible situations. And, like we can kind of further elaborate, like people get trapped in abusive relationships as well because the fact that, well, we love each other and that should be a good enough reason to stay with each other. But no, you're just blinded by your sight of love. But just because two people are in love with each other does not mean that they need to be together. And it does not mean that they are the right people for each other.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. I think another huge important thing on that is that, attraction is important, but it's not the only thing that matters when you're
Hmm.
trying to get into a relationship with somebody. I know that right now in today's day of age, like there's these dating apps, and like
Yeah.
I feel very fortunate enough to have known Amit prior. We dated, like our 10 years is coming up in, I think, 2 years of dating. And, I don't think we were in that era of, what is it? I was going to say
Online
Twitter,
dating,
Tinder. Yeah,
Tinder.
online dating. No, there was online dating, but there wasn't Tinder or Bumblebee or these apps yet. There was like, still Harmony and all that stuff still. There was
Yeah.
speed dating, but there wasn't that to the degree of apps. And so like when I listen to my single girlfriends and, they're struggling and I feel for
Yeah.
them because it's a lot of it is based off of your picture first. And I think that's
Mhm.
so unfortunate because some of us don't photograph well, yet we're beautiful in person. Everyone's beautiful in their own way. But just to know that I'm going to know if I'm going to spend the rest of my life with this one person based off of a picture, it's
Yeah.
like ridiculous. And I'm like, either you're going with someone because they're good looks, but listen, they could be the most shallowest person ever, or your
Hmm.
connection won't even connect, or that person's not right for you. Like it's kind of funny. Like I've heard people like I know this guy, he's out in Vancouver, he's doing his CFA, okay? And like he's on Victoria Island and it's funny because there's a university there. And so
Hmm.
he's like, I go to the pubs and I'll go to the bars and he's like, what? And he's like 29 and he's like, I looked around one day and I realized, yo, they're all 19-year-olds. Like, what's happening here? And he's like, I'm so confused. And I was like, well, A, that's a good thing because you're not a pedophile. B, like you're starting to realize on your own from your dating life, like he's not someone who ever sat down and really got committed quickly, but he's starting to realize with himself that, oh, wait a second, like that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for another fun night or another girl I can't get serious with. I'm looking for someone who I can actually connect with. And he
Hmm.
has said this, like, because he is a very intelligent individual. He has even said to himself, like, Alicia, there's girls that are gorgeous and like they chase him. And
Hmm.
he's like, but I can't connect. I
Yeah.
can't. have a conversation at breakfast the next day with you because I don't even know what you're doing with your life. And he's
Yeah.
like, I don't get them. And that's like a huge thing for a guy to say. Yeah, there's pretty girls. Sure, I can take one of them. But who am I going to have breakfast and coffee with the next day? And that's so
Yeah.
true when you think about it, right? And it's like, yeah, like, you need to connect on an intellectual level that
Hmm.
is the same pace for each of you. Some are higher, some are lower. Some find other things that are important to them. They
Hmm.
find like importance in knowing that when I come home and I lead a stressful life, that I don't need to talk about work with you and we can talk about something else. And then you have doctors who do marry each other because they want to talk about work. They want to
Hmm.
live that same life schedule because they can only understand each other. So I feel like, when you look at the whole picture, you're kind of realizing, okay, am I going to be with someone because of their looks? No, that's not even an
Hmm.
option. So if you just nodded your head yes to this conversation and you heard me say that, you need to stop dating and realize that that is not the first step because attraction is important, but it's
Hmm.
not the only thing.
Hmm.
Looks fade, guys, over the years.
Yeah.
So
And is
you
that
want to
love? Like, is that really love?
Is it? Yeah, like listen, there's intimacy, but intimacy is from passion that's driven within and it's from love.
Hmm.
So it's not just based off of looks. You can have a great time with someone if you connect. Like, I'm sorry, I think Jessica and Mark, they connected
Yeah.
intimately very
Yeah.
well. And he was romantic and he was a sweet guy. Her standards were just way too high, right? So being attracted to your partner is very much important.
Yeah.
Um, but it's definitely not the most important, and it's not the only measure of love or connection in a relationship.
Yeah.
Um,
What you just said, like measure of love, people need to realize that it's not the only measure of love, and you need to stop downplaying all the other measurements, right? Stop
yeah,
downplaying what's important to you, what you want to do in life. If your partner is not there to help motivate you, lift you up, and like want you to succeed as much, like is is your love kind of on the same page? And I'm sorry, we have to talk about Love is Blind for a moment now. So for
yes,
those of you who have not watched Love is Blind, watch it. It's on Netflix. It's a really quick show. So Love is Blind is based on the notion that like the first attraction you have to somebody is a physical attraction, but like what Alicia said, like that will be the first attraction, but that's not what's going to kind of keep your relationship going. And you can't be in love because of looks, right? Because that's not going to end up being a healthy, successful relationship. And so in the show, it's about like you are talking and connecting to people in these pods, and
you're kind
you
of
have
taking a chance on people you normally wouldn't do.
yes. And like
Yeah,
even Jessica, like she connected with Mark, and it was after she saw him that she was like, oh, he looks so young, blah, blah, blah. So it's like if they were not in these pods, then she would have like never given him a time of the day. Like she would literally have just ignored him. By the way, Mark like is with somebody and he has a baby now. Uh,
really?
yeah, I saw
I
his
was
baby
gonna say I
shower
should go
reveal.
Google if they're still together. No way.
No,
Good for
he's
him.
like with somebody else. He was having a baby. I saw his gender reveal. But yeah, the show is about like connecting with somebody without seeing the way that they look and having that personal connection first. And then I mean this show was kind of extreme because like you had to marry them and stuff like that. But
Yes,
I mean my favorite couple like Cameron and oh my God, what's the chick's name?
Lauren.
Cameron and Lauren,
They're
they're
so
married.
cute.
I follow them on Instagram. They're so
Me
cute.
too. I really like them. I love that they were like in love within like, the first episode. And I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that does happen. Like the
Yeah.
fact that they could communicate, they had the walls down and they were so open with each other. I
Yeah.
loved that. That was beautiful.
Yeah. I feel like a big mistake like society does make, and maybe it's a generational thing because our parents, like some of our older generation parents, like, didn't even get to see each other until the day of the marriage. So they didn't really have a choice. Um, but like it could be a generational thing that people think like, oh, like looks is what's gonna kind of make me love this person. If I don't like this person's looks, like I'm not going to fall in love with them, which is not the case, right?
Yeah.
It's all about personality, intimacy, connection, and stuff like that. We get blinded to that. We get blinded
Yeah.
to look at looks more than personality.
Or I feel like, like using Warren and what's his name, Conrad?
Cameron.
Cameron as an example is being yourself from the start so that like you don't need to hash out or reveal anything to your partner later on, months or weeks in. And that's kind of part of the love is blind part too, I feel. Because if you're trying to be something or someone else, and then
Mhm.
eventually you're both in love and you're like, well, now I need to be honest. Like, what was her name? That girl that married the other guy, the military girl.
I know who
She
you're
was in
talking
debt.
about.
She was in a lot of debt, remember?
Yeah,
And he
they're
found it
actually still
after.
married. Yeah.
Yeah, and he found it after because his life was all unchecked. He was I think in engineering or IT, and he had a home and everything, and she was full of debt. And he was really
Yeah.
shocked. And this was like the day before their marriage, she found out. He found out.
Mhm.
So I feel like, you're not being true to yourself or to the person that you want to build a life with. So why not just be yourself from the get-go? Because isn't that the raw part of love? That
Yeah.
like, you're supposed to love this person unconditionally through good or bad.
Hmm.
So wouldn't that be part of it, even if you're bringing the good and bad? So I feel
Yeah.
like that's a huge thing. I think another huge thing is watching out for red flags and actually
Hmm.
acting on them. I feel
Hmm.
like we see red flags in our past relationships, our relationships, and I think Raman and I can relate to this the most, is that we see them and we don't act on them. We
Hmm.
just think, it can never do us wrong because they love us so much and I love
Hmm.
them. And that's not always the case though. And if we don't act on them, then you waste time or you waste years being with someone that's not even supposed to be that person for you because you weren't really being honest or you were blinded.
Absolutely. And I think like a prime example, and this is so hard to say, but women who are in abusive relationships and women
Yeah.
who like kudos to those strong women who like are able to walk away from those relationships, but there are a lot of women that are still victims to their abusers, and for the name of love, right? It's like
Yeah.
I'm not how many horror films do we watch, and and it's like it's not just horror films, these are some people's realities
Oh
that they get,
yeah.
yeah, they get stuck in these abusive relationships, and the guy or mm, I'm not going to say like it's only guys. I'll say guys and girls, but most of the time, if like the guy is not letting go of the woman or not letting her walk away and stuff like that, because it's like we love each other and we have to stay for each other. And you see so many times that these women get trapped in these relationships where they have to like stick it out with their abuser because they think of this notion that like, oh, he loves me, he will change, he won't hurt me. um I was watching this show, and then like the husband was abusing the wife, and she's like, yeah, but he doesn't do it in front of the kids. And it's like just excuses, right? It's like excuses for validating their behavior because you think like they love you and that will kind of be enough. And we
Yeah.
are here to tell you that love is not enough, right?
No.
Um, Love can make you blind. It can make you think that everything is okay and justifiable because they love you. But no, like two people who love each other wouldn't actually do those things to each other. Right. If we
Yeah.
really think about it, like if based on like now being in like amazing healthy relationships, we know that like the partner that really does love you would never kind of put you through those situations or hard times.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think, what can play a place in that is setting boundaries and listening before. I think listening before reacting is also key in relationships. So
Mhm.
outside of domestic violence, I'm talking about like not domestic violence relationships, obviously, but more so like if you're getting to know someone in the beginning or you are seeing red flags, maybe start to understand why you're attracted to this individual, why
Mhm.
you're choosing to stay, because it could lead to more about how you feel
Mhm.
physically around this person too. And I think that's a huge indicator. If your gut isn't feeling good, your intuition, or you don't feel your best at yourself, or this person's keeping you from achieving your dreams or being your best person, then that's a red flag because remember, a relationship is a partnership and you're with that person to build the best life you can for yourself and for that person. And that
Mhm.
may not be the same as every other couple out there. Every couple is different in what they're trying to achieve. Everyone's end goal is different. We're not going to all have the same end goal. But
Hmm.
you and your partner should have the same end goal because it's very important to be on the same page. So I feel
Yeah,
like we're always going to disagree. You have to remember that, like, when you're with somebody else, you guys may not agree on the same thing. That's okay.
that's okay. We're not trying to say that like those are red flags or like those are things that you can't put past. Like there are things that we compromise and cooperate with. Like you
Yeah,
said, it's a partnership.
100%. And, like, it's okay to then understand that that's something that my partner feels strongly about. Like, choose your battles. I feel like it's choosing your battles with that person, setting boundaries, and understanding that, like, you can't react to everything. I'm someone who's very reactive, and I had to learn in my relationship that I can't react to every single thing. Being reactive and knowing myself and learning and becoming to know that I'm someone who does that, and then being with someone who isn't as reactive has taught me to, like, really choose my battles. I say this to a lot of people when they say, we fight too much. There's no such thing as fighting too much in a relationship. I think that's a huge communication factor. I think it's
Hmm.
like a huge thing to be able to let out your raw feelings of how you feel in the moment,
Hmm.
wisely, obviously, not abusively, but also the fact that you can let out your rage to the person you love the most, and also know that, like, you guys will grow from it, heal from it, and learn from those mistakes and move forward.
Hmm.
Another thing people always say to me is that, and I've heard this a lot, is
Hi, friends. Raman and I just wanted to let you guys know about this app that we use. It's called Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
Yes, and it can be heard on all the main platforms and uploaded on them directly, such as Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. And you can start making money on Anchor right away.
Yeah, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to
Anchor.fm to get started.
Have a great week. Bye.
thing that is okay, so, like, when you get into a new relationship, and, like, horoscopes, personalities can be stronger than others. Like, I'm Cancer,
Hmm.
I'm married to a Scorpion. Scorpions are, like, annoying, if you know a Scorpion. They're very strong-headed, stubborn people, but so are Cancers. So, you can have someone who's stubborn, and you can always have that indication of knowing that, like, okay, I can push this person's buttons, or I can choose my battles. I think
Hmm.
the one advice I give every person, like, out of my friends that have gotten married, and I write this in their wedding card, is choose your battles, because I couldn't believe that any more than, or what I've learned from, is that choosing your battles really teaches you to see what's really worth it and not. And when we
Hmm.
relate back to Love is Blind, some of the arguments that these people had were ridiculous. Like, do you remember the really pretty girl with blonde hair, really young one? It started with a G, Gia.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I do
You
know
know
who
who?
you're talking about,
Okay.
but I can't remember her name.
They had such a strong, like, passionate physical level, but
Yeah,
they fought about everything.
everything.
And my thing was, like, some of the fights were really stupid. And I was like, A, they weren't listening before they were
Yeah,
reacting. And B, they were fighting and not choosing their battles. And I was like,
yeah.
you guys are making yourselves so miserable. Like, are you with this person to be miserable together, or are you with this person to have a good life? Like, let's
She had
remind
like
ourselves
that
that.
hot-headed Latina like energy.
Yeah,
Like she
she got it
wanted
from
to
her
like
mama.
yeah, she wanted to argue. She wanted to fight. She even says it on the show herself, guys. We're not calling her a hot-headed Latina. I think she said it literally about herself on the
Yeah,
show. But the
yeah,
guy that she was with was he wasn't with like it wasn't his personality to act that way, fight that way, react that way. So he was very like caught off guard when she would be like trying to do that. And you know what? Ultimately, like it didn't make him want to marry her,
yeah, I
right?
agree.
And for her, I remember her thinking like, but we love each other, like blah blah blah. But he was like, like I'm not gonna put up with this stuff. Like, okay, we love each other, that's cool, but like I'm not gonna put up with this for the rest of my life. And I think one of the biggest things is, loving yourself first and being self-aware, because if you kind of put your self respect in somebody else's hand, they'll always be running the show, right? So
It's true.
us as women, we need to know our self-worth, right? We need to know what is our value and value ourselves the utmost over anybody else. Because if we're not in a healthy mental place in ourselves, like, yeah, it is going to be easier for other people to kind of run all over us and like control our feelings, or, let us kind of push things under the rug. But we need to be self-aware. We need to be self-aware of knowing, when are we not happy? When is it okay to
Yeah.
walk away? When is this something, I should really be taking seriously, or pushing under the rug, right? Because
Yeah.
a lot of the big problem with like treating love blind is pushing things under the rug and not seeing problems as they are. But knowing, if you love yourself and you appreciate yourself and you know your self-worth, you will know that I am not going to let someone walk all over me like this. Like, hell to the fucking no.
Exactly. I agree 100% with you. And you know what? I think one thing we can learn from all this is that you shouldn't judge a connection that you see in your friends groups either. I feel like, we're so quick to say, oh, I don't think those two are meant to be together. Or because we see moments of their relationship, but we don't see the
Mhm,
entirety of it. And watching
mhm.
this show, like, you kind of have a good judgment of whether people should be together or not, or they're going
We've
to have
all done it.
issues.
We've all been like, those two people should not be together.
Yeah, right. And we did it even on the show. Like, I personally really like that guy. I think his name was Barnett. Was it
Yeah,
Barnett? Yeah.
Barnett and
Yeah, I
his,
can't
yeah.
remember. Yeah. I thought he was a pretty great guy. You know what I mean? Did I think he should have ended up with whoever he did? No, I don't.
It was a
But,
girl with a debt.
yeah, that girl, that's the one. And, but you know what I think? Even if two people seem wrong for each other, even if two people seem wrong for each other, I
Mhm,
think it's up to, but they're happy. I don't
mhm,
think anyone should judge them that's around them and let them test their own connection. You know what I
mhm,
mean? Like, just let them play out their own connection. Sometimes it's okay, like, to let people not be right for each other, but still be
mhm.
happy. And I think that's important to see that difference too.
Yeah, I'm going to be a
You
little
know?
bit of a devil's advocate here.
What?
Or speak on the other side of this. I also
Mm-hmm.
think okay, we all do it. We've all seen our friends or someone and we're like, yo, those two people are like horrible for each other. But like, you're never going to tell them, right?
No.
Because it's like, how do you tell somebody that them and their partner who they're planning their whole life with, are not good people for each other? It's like a really hard thing to tell. It's something we just kind of do on the sidelines. But
Yeah, it is
um,
true.
I do think it's important that in the topic of that we discussed, that some people are so blinded by love that they are trapped in terrible toxic relationships that they can't get out of. I do think it's also important to see that, what, these two people might not be as happy as they look, right?
Yeah.
Um, and also knowing that, and as people, you might see red flags, but obviously the person in the relationship is like, full-fledged committed. They're not going to kind of look past those, or they do look past those negative factors. But as friends, like, do you think that we kind of have the right to go to somebody and be like, it looks like you guys have a really toxic relationship, or you guys just are not good people for each other?
That's a hard one. I'll be very honest. I tried to a few years ago to someone,
And how did it turn
and
out? Did they say, fuck you? Don't talk about my relationship.
no, they said to me that they knew that person wasn't for them,
Yeah.
but they are so far fetched into this that they were getting married a few months after,
Mhm.
and it was too late for them, and that this is just the journey they wanted to choose. And I'll be honest, like, I'm sure after the fact, the problems I heard are still there. They're still married. And
Yeah.
it's sad. So some people kind of just stick it out because they're just like, what else am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
It's sad. You can only tell someone. So I don't know. Because of that, I don't think I would tell anyone ever again. Unless it was like my sibling, then yes. My
Yeah, you
siblings,
have to.
100%. Yeah. I just don't think I will ever cross the path to do that because at the same time, by putting myself in that person's position, like I said, we only see snippets of someone's relationship. You don't see the
Hmm.
entirety of the whole relationship.
Hmm.
And maybe they don't do well in public, you know?
Yeah.
Or if they're really toxic and they're being bashed or being abused or verbally abused, then yeah, 100% I'll stand up for that person. That's
Yeah.
entirely different. But if it's just a connection issue or they're just not on the same intellectual level, then no.
Mhm.
I don't know if I would. What about you?
You know what? I agree with you that it's a hard thing to tell somebody, but I also think it depends on who you're telling, right? I do have a friend who like she had like a very like, and one of the red flags is when people break up, get back together, break up, get back together. I think that's a very big red flag, ladies. If
Mm-hmm.
you are like over 20 years old, because under that, I feel like little kids might be like, okay with the back and forth thing, like
Yeah.
whatever. But if you are over 20 years old and you are in a relationship where you're breaking up, getting back together every couple of months, big red flag, big red
Huge.
flag. You are
Huge.
so blinded by love that you are not seeing that that is like not okay. It's not normal. It's not normal.
No.
And I've been through that. I've been through the breaking up, get back together with the same person. And guess what? Wasn't the right person. Right. And I just
Yeah.
wish somebody like slapped me across the face. And you know what it was? I knew people were thinking it, that I'm not in a good relationship. And I think that's the hardest part too, when it's like you're trying so hard not to show people that you're in a toxic relationship and you're um, being like smiles and everything. And I feel like maybe that's why it was hard for people to tell me. But you bet that people told me after the relationship was done. They were like, you told me too. Like everyone
I
told
know,
me, like
but okay,
everyone
Roman,
knew.
you have to remember. Hold on. You came into my life still in the time that you were dating this person, very much
That is
involved.
true. And how do you
Like,
tell somebody that it's
yeah,
like you're
I
not dating
just
the right
met you
person?
when you
Yeah.
have had friends for 10 years plus that didn't tell you. So,
Yeah. Because it's
I had
hard.
no
How do you
place.
tell somebody, yeah, that like
Now,
you're in a shitty
100%.
relationship?
I would tell you right away if somebody wasn't meant for you.
Yeah.
Right
Because
now,
you
in today's day
do
and age.
get into a place like that. So with me, I do have a friend who basically same situation, like in and out of the relationship. And she is one person that I am so brutally honest with. I straight up told her, I'm like, this is not the person you're going to end up with. You're wasting your time without
Yeah,
like, but it's also because I know that she's the type of person who would not like be like, I can't be friends with her because she told me this. If
good.
I
Yeah.
knew that somebody was going to react in a really negative way and be like, oh, now I'm not going to tell Raman anything and I'm not going to um, like, I'm just going to kind of like not share this with her because she has this perception of my relationship, then yeah, I would be very hesitant to tell somebody that they're in a bad relationship. But with this specific friend, straight up, I'm just like, no filter. Like, you're in a terrible relationship. This is going to end. It's not going to end well. Like, and I think it's important because I think it did help her in the long run to have somebody who um just have a support person that kind of
Yeah.
knows that like she's going to tell me straight up that I'm not in a healthy place. And I feel like she was blinded by love. She was also in a situation where it was a toxic relationship where the guy is telling her like everything is terrible, like not everything, sorry, but like a toxic relationship. But um as I was saying, not everything was bad, but this guy was telling her that they should stay together because they love each other. And it was like, I had to really explain that to her. Like, love is not enough. I've been there. And it's like, we're so young, ladies. We're so young. It's like, why waste your next even 5 years with somebody that you're not happy with? Know your self worth and know when to walk away and know when to also seek help. Know when to go to your girls and be like, I'm not in a good relationship and I need help getting out. And,
Yeah.
maybe like somebody out there like me is going to have to give you a reality check and tell you all the hard things that you might not want to hear.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And you know what? Um, it's hard. I like, to tell people what you think of the relationship. And I think reaction is key. You touched a huge base on that, whether that person will be receptive to hearing what you have to say. But I think it's even when we hear from our family, that's a
Mhm,
huge, our families are always raw. I find a
mhm.
lot of people's families are raw when it comes to that person uniting with someone else, right? So love is definitely blind in many
Yeah.
ways. And I think it comes down to how you perceive it, what the outcome is for you and that person, what you want to do for the next 40, 50 years. Um, One thing I do need to touch base on that you said is that the breaking up and getting back together. Like, what do these people think is going to happen when you're married? Are you going to like get divorced and get
Yeah,
remarried?
you oh my God. And no,
Like,
they think like getting married is like a permanent fix. Like, oh, if we get married, we won't break up.
exactly. And I don't get it. That's like when people who are married and have marital issues throw a
Yeah.
child into the mix and think the
Yes.
child's going to fix everything. But all you've done is like added another person to the mix. That's now
Hmm.
you've made it harder to come out of. And
Yeah.
it's just like, guys, there's a billion people out there. The person you're with does not feel entirely right for you to your bone. They don't make
Hmm.
you feel good. You know that they're making other people around you not feel good,
Hmm.
or it's just you, most importantly you, and
Hmm.
they don't fit into your life. Like, I really do feel like our life is a puzzle, and if their puzzle piece is not fitting in and you just keep trying to jab it onto the puzzle and it's not fitting into
Hmm.
the place of the puzzle cutout, then there's something wrong. So take a step back and
Yeah.
realize that, okay, maybe I do need to walk away from this. And when you do walk away from it, learn from your past experiences. Don't go continue
Hmm.
to make the same mistakes. Make sure that the
Yeah.
next person you meet is not the same fucking fuck boy, or is
Like,
not
don't
the
be I
same.
mean, be a hopeless romantic, but don't be the
Yeah,
same type of hopeless romantic.
exactly. Like, do it for what makes you feel good. Learn from those past experiences
Hmm.
and enjoy the process.
Yeah.
For the younger girls out there, actually not even younger, sorry, I take that back. If you're 30, you're fucking 20, you're 19, you're 40, whatever, you're single, get out there and start dating. I think the most important thing is to continue to date and go on dates, whether it's virtual
Hmm.
right now, going for a walk on the beach, going for a walk during the summer nights and getting an ice cream or a coffee. Go do more of that to get to know yourself,
Hmm.
another person, learn different dating behaviors, learn different personalities to know what it is you want at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because, we didn't touch base on this. Maybe we should make this a whole podcast about high school
Yes.
lovers. But I do feel like, if you don't experience enough people, personalities, you may always feel like you're missing something too. So when you
Yeah.
do end up being with one person, part of you may feel like, okay, I feel like I should have done something else, or I should have done more people, or I only stuck with one dick. Um,
Hmm.
I hear a lot of people say that. It sucks.
Yeah.
And like you find many years later someone has cheated in that relationship due to like the intimacy level because they weren't being fulfilled intimately. And
Hmm.
that's a huge part because like intimacy and passion is one whole part of its own part in your relationship.
Hmm.
Without that, like, I'm sorry, I feel like do people do cheat. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate, but it's true. And it's because you're not either communicating to your lover how you want to be loved, or you're not being honest, or you haven't experienced enough to know that there's still more that you want to try.
Yeah.
Like maybe you want a threesome. I don't know. Whatever feeds into you. Maybe you haven't like done all that. Then go do all the experimenting. Get it out of your system,
Yeah.
and then go settle. So I feel like it depends on the route you take, the person you want, what you want your final outcome to be.
Hmm.
But don't be in toxicity. Life is
Yeah.
way too short. So look at those red flags, act on them, and do something about it.
Absolutely. That was so wonderfully said. We hope that all you women are, or men listening, do take a moment to be aware that, do I love myself first? Am I putting myself first? Is my partner putting myself first? Um, and kind of, reevaluate that, like, am I in love or am I just in blind love? Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank, thank you for everyone for listening to today's episode of Love is Blind. And we hope that you go on Netflix and watch Love is Blind if you have not seen it yet. It's a
Yeah.
pretty good, entertaining show. I think they're actually going to have a second season. So that will be
Ooh,
interesting. Yeah, I think they were
yeah.
renewed for a second season. I don't know yet, though, if it's the same people or different people, but I would love to
Mm.
see like the same people actually.
Yeah, me too. I was
um,
invested.
Yeah, if you guys have any stories, we would actually love to hear about them. You can email us at ramanandalysha@gmail.com. And as always, if you're not already following us on social media, you can follow us on Instagram and our YouTube page at Level Up with Raman and Alysha.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.